This is an art collage novel video. I made this series so you guys can experience the story faster. The video will focus on the character's psychology, the images are for illustration purposes only. Although the Divine Realm tablet kept growing in size, it was like a stone sinking into the ocean, silent and unnoticeable, compared to the endless raging primordial astral winds. The astral winds are too powerful. The demonic dragon exclaimed in shock. How many years has it taken to form such an endless and almost world-destroying elemental power? Will your Divine Realm tablet work? Yunxiao's face was pale as well. He gritted his teeth and said, regardless of whether it's useful or not, I can only bite the bullet and do it. Right now, the connection between me and the Divine Monument is faintly discernible, as if it's about to be cut off. His heart was filled with shock, and he hurriedly circulated his spirit energy. The Great Realm Divine Technique was formed in his hands, and golden lights flew out from his hands like butterflies, floating in the white light that was shining on the bright moon divine body. Yuan Gaohan suddenly opened his eyes and stared at the sky in horror, full of disbelief. He tried his best to open his eyes, trying to see the golden light on Yunxiao's handprint clearly. It looked like tadpole-like runes, but the light of the bright moon divine body was too dazzling, and with the strong interference of the wind element, he could not see it clearly. Don't tell me those are golden tadpole-like characters?
Ha!
How can that be? I'm really too suspicious. It must be because we're too far apart and they just look similar. Yuan Gaohan touched his forehead out of habit, but his eyes couldn't relax at all. Instead, they became more and more serious. He raised his head once again to look at the tiny light, all of his soul power condensed in his eyes, penetrating the layers of wind elements, wanting to see it clearly. When Yunxiao performed the Great Realm Divine Technique in his hand, he immediately sensed the Divine Realm tablet's existence, which was spinning rapidly in the strong wind. At this moment, the inside of the Divine Realm tablet was also affected by the wind. The entire independent space began to weather, and it was desolate and decadent. The few of them surrounded the huge primordial stone block, and their expressions changed. Yunxiao's soul form suddenly turned solid as he performed an incantation gesture with his hand, which turned into a golden tadpole-like character. It was one of the few characters he knew in the Great Realm Divine Technique. At that moment, the Divine Realm tablet sensed something, and the real space let out a muffled sound, as if it was struggling. Now! Everyone, give me a hand! With a loud cry, Yunxiao's entire soul suddenly turned into a beam of light in the sky and began to develop a divine art. With the appearance of each character, the light on his body dimmed a little. He had mobilized almost all his soul power, and his entire body shook as if it would disappear completely in the next moment. The hearts of the 7 people below trembled. This was their only chance to leave this place, so they had to fight for it with all their strength. The 7 of them attacked at the same time. Some of them were sitting cross-legged with their hands forming a sword spell, some of them were bending and stepping out with their right palms, and some of them were standing on one leg in the air, making strange movements. The 7 of them each had their own style, and their magic arts were also completely different. However, as the 7 of them cast their spells, a circular golden spell formation spread out on the plane where the 7 of them were, and it emitted a brilliant golden light. Boom boom boom. The several 100-meter-long metastone cube suddenly exploded, and vital chi poured out as if it were real. However, it did not disperse. Instead, it was affected by the circular golden formation and turned into a stream of vital chi. It spun rapidly around the 7 people, like a chariot rolling past. Yunxiao's soul was getting dimmer and dimmer. After casting many incantations, he murmured a strange sound, which grew from a small voice to a loud one, echoing throughout the entire space and knocking on everyone's heart. At this moment, wind elements gathered from all directions, as if a deflating balloon had been filled with a large amount of wind. The sky began to become fierce, and a large amount of astral winds whistled, turning into tornadoes that fell from the sky like thousands of thunderbolts. The territory power that penetrated the Divine Realm tablet gushed in from the outside. A small piece of palm-sized mud appeared in the roaring yuan qi flow, dispersing the earth's pulsating power. It suppressed the entire crazily shattering space, preventing the astral wind from being too strong and causing it to collapse. Yunxiao's real body was still in the sky above the ruins of the ancient desolate land. Suddenly, a bright light shot out of his eyes as he stared at the raging astral winds in the sky, as if something had begun to change. Yuan Gaohan looked up, his face full of doubts. He could not figure out what kind of magic art Yunxiao had just used. However, he could feel that the power of the wind element seemed to be gradually weakening. Could it be that the time had come and the astral winds were going to be sealed again? Why does it feel so short this time? Yuan Gaohan looked at the sky in all directions with some surprise, only to see that the speed of the astral wind was indeed slowing down. A strange expression suddenly appeared on his face as he muttered to himself, could it be that this brat's magic art just now affected the movement of the astral winds? No, it's impossible. He quickly shook his head and laughed at himself, why have I become so suspicious? Perhaps it's because the magic arts he just used seemed to be ancient scriptures. Even an ordinary martial emperor powerhouse would not dare to block the sharpness of this astral wind power. Yuan Gaohan looked into the distance and calmed his mood, indifferently saying to himself, these astral winds have been blowing for countless years and will continue for countless years. Perhaps one year, they will be changed by some powerful person. What's that, Kasaya? His eyebrows twitched, and his eyes suddenly focused. In the powerful astral wind power, the divine realm tablet emitted a faint golden light and gradually became the eye of the astral wind. All the hurricanes that were raging in the sky above the ancient barrens land rushed into it. The golden light was extremely weak, as if it could be extinguished at any time, but it gave people a sense of tenacity and unyielding power. That's... Yuan Gaohan's eyes widened again, his face filled with disbelief. Although the divine realm tablet seemed to be swaying in the astral wind, it was indeed standing there, unmoved. One must note that under this kind of astral wind, even a 9th-tier profound armament would not be able to withstand it. Unless it was a powerful existence like the king level or martial sovereign's ageless mountain, which could stabilize space and prevent it from being invaded by external forces. Gulp. Yuan Gaohan swallowed a mouthful of saliva. This time, he saw it clearly again. This immemorial astral wind was definitely not sealed when the time was up, but was swallowed by the jade monument in the sky. This discovery made him draw in a cold breath, and his whole body turned cold. What kind of profound weapon in this world could absorb this kind of elemental power that was close to the source? As a 9th-tier alchemist, his understanding of these profound-level weapons and the power of elements could be said to have reached the peak. Because when it came to 9th-tier profound armaments, not only did it require a large amount of various materials, it also required the fusion of various laws of heaven and earth during the refining process, only then could it form a 9th-tier profound armament. The most difficult part was the fusion of these materials with the power of laws, which itself required an extremely large amount of laws to condense. The most common method used by alchemists was to use a furnace to gather the power of elements in the world and upgrade it to forge all kinds of materials. As the profound armament's grade increased, the requirement for the power of the elements became more and more demanding. After reaching the 9th step, only 2 types of elemental power could satisfy the forging of 9th step equipment. The first was an extremely powerful mutation of the element, which could produce an unimaginably powerful force. The second was the elements that were close to the origin. Similar to the power of the astral winds, it could transform almost everything. If an almighty could collect it, it would be very impressive to use it to refine weapons. In other words, this immemorial astral wind was an existence that could be used to forge 9th-tier profound armaments, so how could a 9th-tier profound armament be used to collect it? If any 9th-tier profound armament were to be exposed to it, it would not take long for it to be weathered beyond recognition, losing all of its spiritual energy. Even the king-level mountain, the unaging mountain, could only hold on for a little longer. What is that jade tablet Pishio? A huge question mark appeared in Yuan Gaohan's mind, and he didn't even blink. At this moment, the power of the squall around him was gradually weakening. He hurriedly turned into a ray of light and rushed up, wanting to see more clearly. Yunxiao put his hands together and remained still. The spiritual energy in his body was also completely consumed and he started to burn his vital qi. The consumption rate was extremely fast and he had a faint feeling that he couldn't hold on any longer. At this moment, in the Divine Realm tablet, the violent power of primordial chi was as thin as the morning mist and as thin as smoke, as if it would be scattered with a blow. The mud-like earth in the middle had also become smaller again, as if it had been scattered across the entire space to stop the immemorial astral wind. However, its power was getting weaker and weaker. No. If this continued, the entire space would shatter. This profound armament of yours will also be finished. Sheng shouted from below. He was also an alchemist, and he had long been shocked by the strange scene of the astral wind falling from the sky. As the breathing earth continued to disintegrate, he could still control the power of the astral winds in the beginning to reduce the impact on the space within the steel. But now, the hundreds of millions of primordial stones were all used on the formation. Without the effect of the primordial stones, it was very difficult to separate the earth. The speed of the astral winds was getting faster and faster, and each gust of wind caused a great tremor in the space. How could Yunxiao not understand that? He was also anxious. He took out a pill and put it in his mouth, swallowing it. It was none other than the Tianshui soul-nourishing pill that little Qing had obtained. As soon as it entered his stomach, he immediately felt a cooling sensation spread through his body. His almost dried-up soul power was nourished, and it was restored like a tide. His soul form became extremely bright. Phoenix flame, rise. Yunxiao threw out several golden incantation seals with both hands and gave a loud cry. In the Divine Realm tablet, his every thought and move were the laws of heaven and earth. As the golden incantation seal fell, a huge burning sensation surged from the boundless land in the Divine Realm tablet. The soil of the entire land began to turn red, and the heat waves rolled up as if they were going to burn the space completely. The chirping of a true spirit fire phoenix came from an unknown distance away, echoing in everyone's hearts. The divine fire took form from the ground, and a sea of fire slowly rose up into the sky, colliding fiercely with the power of the squall that was falling continuously. The true phoenix fire and the immemorial astral wind were both existences that were extremely close to the power of the elemental origin. The two forces intertwined in the Divine Realm tablet and collided with each other. It caused the sky to be filled with the power of wind and fire. Countless tiny tornadoes and astral winds were swallowed by the divine fire, but they were soon sucked in by the powerful astral winds and turned into fire tornadoes. Visually, the situation of the entire space seemed to become more serious, as if it was going to be completely burned. Originally, Yunxiao was a god in the Divine Realm tablet. His words followed his dharmakaya, and his every thought and move were the rules of the realm. However, at this moment, the Divine Realm tablet was extremely damaged, and even the power of the inner realm's rule force could not suppress the immemorial astral wind. Instead, it was destroyed and was on the verge of collapse. Oh no. The true phoenix fire can't withstand the immemorial astral wind either. What should we do? Inside the Divine Realm tablet, the phantom of the demon dragon appeared directly behind Yunxiao. When it sensed the doomsday-like scene, it said in surprise, "Can we stop? If this continues, we'll all be finished." Yunxiao's soul form was a little dazed. He shook his head with a wry smile and said, "I can't stop. Besides, I'm connected to the Divine Realm tablet, so I know the severity better than you. These immemorial astral winds had been nurtured for far too long, and their elemental powers were far too powerful. I'm really done for this time. Such a supreme treasure is going to be destroyed in my hands." He looked around with a look of regret. Although he hadn't possessed it for a long time, the benefits that the Divine Realm tablet had brought him were incalculable. Now that he suddenly saw it being destroyed, he couldn't help but feel upset. Besides, if the supreme treasure was destroyed, his body would also be severely damaged. Everyone, get ready to run for your lives. This place is going to collapse soon. If you can escape this, you'll be free. Yunxiao sighed as he looked at the 7 people who were at a loss. Everyone's face was filled with fear. No one had ever experienced the collapse of an independent space before. They had no idea if they could survive. Duanyu whistled, and a roar immediately came out. It was the dark thunder, its body glowing with a golden light as it dodged the tornadoes in the air and came running from a distance. He flew to Duanyu's side, turned over, and rode on Dark Thunder's back. Then, he suddenly laughed and said, "Even a supreme-grade profound-level weapon was destroyed by you. Now, I'm truly 100% impressed by you." With a wry smile on his face, Yunxiao said, "My connection with the Divine Realm Tablet is about to be broken. This time, not only the profound-level weapon, but also the breathing earth and the Phoenix True Flame. I'm afraid I can't keep them. We've worked so hard to collect so many rare treasures." "You're a man with great fortune," Duanyu chuckled. "Even if you lose all these, you'll get better things in the future. And perhaps you won't lose them. Under your heavenly mandate, perhaps these primordial astral winds will stop and obediently bow down to you." He had a calm expression on his face, as if he had turned a blind eye to this apocalyptic scene. Compared to the other 6 people who had white faces and frightened eyes, he had an even more extraordinary aura. Yunxiao was also a little surprised. He could not tell that Duanyu had such a strong heart and consciousness. The phantom of the demonic dragon suddenly exclaimed, its lantern-like eyes widening as it said in surprise, "Why did the astral wind stop?" This sentence shocked everyone. They hurriedly looked up and around, only to see that the astral winds in the sky had begun to converge and retreat layer by layer. No more new elemental power poured in. Soon, the true phoenix fire took the advantage and suppressed all the wind elements, pouring them into the earth and slowly restoring clarity. The surrounding elemental powers gradually dissipated, as if the clouds had scattered and the sky had split. The space had escaped from the brink of collapse. This swan and I. What? Duanyu's mouth was wide open as he said in a daze, "This Kasaya works too, Kasaya?" Yunxiao was also completely dumbfounded. He looked at Duanyu, wiped his cold sweat, and said awkwardly, "Master Duan, you're the one who really has the power of words. Are you possessed by some godly state expert?" Duanyu laughed with his mouth wide open. "If I were an immortal state warrior, I would be the first one to kill you." The other 6 people were also filled with the joy of surviving a disaster, and their faces were full of shock and disbelief. Yunxiao also felt that it was very magical. Suddenly, his face changed as he said in shock, "Not good." Then, his soul form disappeared from the Divine Realm Tablet and returned to his body. In the sky above the ancient barrens, the large amount of astral winds stopped their rampage and slowly began to flow. In the midst of it, something seemed to be shuttling back and forth. At the same time, the Divine Realm Tablet's absorption force came to a halt. Yunxiao's main body looked over in horror, but he felt a powerful pressure squeezing the Divine Realm Tablet, shaking it out and sending it flying in a beam of light. It was like a nail stuck in a wooden board that was pulled out by hand. He hurriedly changed his hand seal, and the Divine Realm Tablet spun in the air before flying directly into his glabella and putting it away. Only then did he feel relieved. The Divine Realm Tablet was on the verge of death, but it was still alive. It had already absorbed enough immemorial astral wind and was suppressed by the true phoenix fire and the earth's breathing earth. There was a balance in the space inside the tablet. As long as they left this damn place, they could slowly refine it. Yuan Gaohan rushed up in just a few steps. He was going to check Yunxiao's profound level weapon, but when he suddenly discovered the situation inside the primordial astral wind, he turned his attention to the top and cried out in surprise, "What's that?" In the strong wind, a shadow was swimming like a fish in water. Yunxiao was also shocked. Although he did not know what it was, he was sure that it was a living thing. And his Divine Realm Tablet must have also been pulled out by this thing like a nail. Gulp. The 2 of them swallowed their saliva at the same time and looked at each other. They were both extremely shocked and aghast. Both of them were 9th-tier alchemists, and they knew how terrifying the primordial astral wind was. Even 9th-tier profound artifacts would be refined in it, so how could there be a living thing in it? Shwa shwa. The squall that had stopped started to blow again, but it was still a little different from before. Previously, it was a chaotic and disorderly wreaking havoc, but now it seemed to be under control, and it was flowing in an orderly manner in one direction. This buy-in. The 2 of them widened their eyes in shock. That, that living thing is devouring the immemorial astral wind? Yuan Gaohan was shocked. Yunxiao also felt his scalp go numb. The living thing in the gale was becoming clearer and clearer, and the gale that filled the sky was constantly gathering on it. In the shadow, he could only feel the creature's mouth opening and closing as it swallowed. Even a true spirit, none, might not dare to swallow such a thing. The two of them felt an unprecedented terror and wanted to escape. However, although the power of the astral winds in the sky had weakened a lot, they still existed. They did not dare to pass through the elemental field directly with their physical bodies or souls. They could only swallow medicinal pills with all their might and start to recover and accumulate energy, waiting for all kinds of abnormalities that could appear at any time. Finally, after the time it took to brew a cup of tea, the living creature's appearance gradually appeared. It was a behemoth like a crocodile, lying horizontally in the air, opening its mouth and constantly inhaling and exhaling gang qi. Every breath it took swallowed a large amount of gang qi, and its body gradually became more solid. Old Yuan, you've seen a lot, but have you ever seen such a thing? Yunxiao asked nervously, his hair standing on end. The aura of power from the crocodile made him shudder. Yuan Gaohan also swallowed his saliva and said, isn't this a crocodile? Don't tell me you've never even seen a crocodile before? Yunxiao glanced over and raised his middle finger in disdain. Since it's a crocodile, you go and take care of it. Yuan Gaohan wiped his cold sweat and said awkwardly, this thing is indeed a crocodile. Just look at its appearance. If it's only similar, it can't be exactly the same. It's very likely that it's an ancient crocodile's ancestor, and it might even be an immortal state true spirit. Yunxiao frowned slightly, as if he somewhat agreed with this statement. Not all descendants of true spirits were incomparably powerful. Indeed, many descendants of powerful existences from the ancient times had become extremely ordinary demonic beasts, and even ferocious beasts. For example, the descendants of the true spirit ancestral bird had become chickens raised by humans. It was simply too sad. But, even a true spirit can't devour elemental power that's close to the origin, right? Yunxiao asked the question in his heart. Yuan Gaohan rolled his eyes at him and said, who knows? No one has ever seen how powerful a true spirit is. It only exists in legends. When he thought of this, his heart suddenly thumped. His eyes widened and he said in horror, so, we've seen an ancient true spirit with our own eyes? Yunxiao, on the other hand, was not as surprised as he was. He had seen two true spirits not long ago, but they were definitely not inferior to this true spirit, the crocodile. But is really a crocodile? Why do I still feel strange? Yunxiao looked at the crocodile and muttered in a low voice. I don't think so either. The demonic dragon's voice came from the depths of his soul. He was equally shocked as he said, even if it's a true spirit, I believe that it can resist the immemorial astral wind. However, it could still be swallowed into the stomach, unless it was a powerful existence born from the original elements. For example, the true spirit fire phoenix, the void thunder roar, the earth bear, and so on. These true spirits that possessed the power of the elemental origin were famous even in the immortal state. The true soul born from the wind element is the Feiyang. I've never heard of a crocodile. Yunxiao's doubts grew. The demon dragon was the descendant of the ancient true dragon, and could be considered as a subdragon, so it knew a lot about the history of the true spirit. He didn't feel any level pressure from the crocodile. It was just a terrifying elemental power. This isn't right. This doesn't look like a true spirit. Yuan Gaohan also seemed to feel a bit strange and whispered to himself, there's a lot of information recorded in the ancient Gale's holy domain, but no one has ever discovered this thing. Moreover, this place was originally dense. Yuan Gaohan's words came to an abrupt stop as he suddenly sucked in a breath of cold air, his eyes bursting with light as he stared at the crocodile, his entire person becoming extremely unsightly.